Okay, this is a preview of the lesson for today. This is starting on page 200. We finished last time on page 198 and 199. You should have filled this chart in here with the proper numbers for the ratios. It should have been 3 and 2 and 1, and you should have shown those with the different proportions. So let's move on to today's work. This is going to be also showing rates and proportions comparing different numbers. The situation here says that this coach wants her swim team to increase their speed. She's going to give an award to the team member of the swim team who can swim the most laps in 20 minutes after practice this week. The table records the results from this week's practice. So according to these numbers here, which student, according to these numbers, would be able to go the most laps in 20 minutes? Now, as you see here, none of these have a time of 20 minutes. So we're going to need to set up a proportion. Let me show you for the first student, or the one in the example here for Susan. So it says Susan would do 7 laps in 10 minutes. This is kind of like what we were working on yesterday. So if you set this up as a proportion, you can write it as this: 7 laps in 10 minutes. And if you're setting it up as a proportion, you can put it equal to. And if you're trying to find out for 20 minutes, you would change the bottom number to then 20 minutes. Then you can see comparing from 10 to 20. And you should know that that is twice as long, or 10 times 2 would give us 20. So you would infer that if she could swim 7 laps in 10 minutes, then in twice that time, if you multiply the 7 times 2 on the top, you would consider that she would swim 14 laps in 20 minutes. So 14 laps, 20 minutes. That would be what you would predict for her based on that swimming time that she got. And you'd be able to do that to these other numbers as well. So for this one, you would put 4 over 5 and compare that to a 20-minute time like we did here. The next page is going to ask you to scale up these proportions. So this is the definition of a proportion here. It's an equation that states 2 ratios are equal, just like what I did up earlier in that previous problem. So there's an example here from this student K. So here's another answer from the problem up above. This student does 4 laps in 5 minutes. So they put their laps and their minutes here, and they went from 5 to 20. You know that that is multiplied by 4, just as it's shown there. So if you multiply by 4 on the bottom, you would multiply by 4 on the top. So you would assume that this student, or this swim member, would do 16 laps in 20 minutes. This is something that's called scaling up, multiplying both parts of the ratio by the same factor. Like if you're doubling a recipe for cooking food, you would be scaling up that recipe. So it's going to have some examples here. You can continue to do these for the swimming example. And then some practice problems that you're going to work on today, starting on page 203, is going to be for scaling up. So it's going to give you 3 of the numbers, and you'll need to figure out the last one. So if I zoom in here on this problem, and once again, this is page number 203. So you see here from 3 feet to 27 feet, that's 9 times as much. So if 3 times 9 is 27 up on the top, you would multiply on the bottom times 9, so you would get 9 yards for this new number down here. That's called scaling up. And on the next page, it's going to ask you to do the opposite. It's going to ask you to scale down. So you're going to go the opposite direction. So you're going from 6 hoagies, and that's a type of sandwich. Okay, you're going from 6 to 2. So you would do 6 divided by 2, which would be 3. Okay, so you would be dividing by 3. So here you divide by 3, and then down here you would divide by 3. 18 divided by 3 is 6. You're scaling down. So let's say at a previous party, 6 sandwiches fed 18 people, but this time you're only gonna need 1/3 of that amount. You're not gonna need as many sandwiches, and you're just gonna wanna feed 6 people. You would know that you would need to get 3 of those sandwiches. You'd be scaling down. So you're gonna practice the problems here on the remaining of this page and on the previous page as well with scaling up.